However, over the course of the 90s, a tangible shift toward the arrest patterns of the early 80s began to emerge. By 96, marijuana had once again surpassed heroin and cocaine as a primary drug of arrest, a gap that has widened since then. Low-level offenses are currently flooding the criminal justice system. Only 1 in 18 marijuana arrests resulted in a felony conviction, which is a good barometer for how severe these offenses are that they're arresting people. And there's been negligible impact on use. Since 1992, real price of marijuana has fallen by 16%, while potency has increased by 53%. Again, this is during historic increases in marijuana arrests. From 1990 to 2002, daily use of marijuana by high school seniors nearly tripled, from 2.2% to 6%. Notably, the current 6% level is the same as the level in 1975, before we began this rapid increase in arrests. Thus, after 30 years of aggressively pursuing marijuana arrests, the arrests have grown at a rapid rate, use patterns fluctuate, and remain near the same level. And finally, survey results suggest that more people believe that it's fairly easy or very easy to get marijuana. So recapping, nearly 30 years of unprecedented resources directed toward the rest of marijuana users, and today price has fallen, potency has increased, and availability has increased. In short, these efforts appear to fail on every demonstrable metric. So how did we get here? The fact is that billions of federal dollars earmarked for drug enforcement had a demonstrable impact on how the police fought crime. It has been empirically demonstrated that grants and funding drove police to pursue drug offenses to a much higher degree during the 1980s than had been in the past. This took resources away from pursuit of other crimes, again demonstrated empirically. There's been a fair amount of research that shows that as drug arrests go up, other arrests for other crimes go down. And as I've discussed here earlier, it's had a catastrophic impact on the African American community. Both quantitative and qualitative analyses demonstrate that much of the increase in drug arrests in the African American community stems from conscious policy decisions made at the city level. In Seattle, for example, a sophisticated assessment of drug arrests controlling for drug use, type of drug, and role in the drug trade concluded that while whites comprise the majority of persons who sell serious drugs, nearly 2/3 of persons arrested by police were African American. So wanting to leave on a positive note, how do we deal with all this? Well, there is a silver lining. We made the mess and we can clean it up. First, on a broad scale, we need to shift funding priorities. The federal drug control budget directs 2/3 of its resources toward enforcement and interdiction. These national level decisions and resource allocation affect the agenda of state and local leaders, which favor enforcement over prevention and treatment. Shifting national drug control to emphasize demand reduction is crucial to addressing racial disparity and these overall drug arrests. Second, the area of law enforcement, we need to reconsider law enforcement practices and how police can best serve a community. This might include partnering with social service providers, such as hospitals, shelters, and treatment facilities, to place persons needing assistance in the proper setting, rather than utilizing these services as an afterthought in sentencing. Prosecutors and defense counsel are key actors who have an important role to play as well. Prosecutors reserve a great deal of discretion in their charging patterns, and in some states have veto power to whether a defendant should be made eligible for alternative sentencing provisions. Prosecutors should be made a partner in this process rather than an adversary. And finally, there needs to be restoration of an appropriate amount of judicial discretion. The passage of mandatory minimum sentencing provisions, determinate sentencing initiatives, and punitive sentencing guidelines have come to define American drug control policy. These policies have been a major contributing factor to the racial disparities discussed in prison and jail. The loss of judicial discretion has resulted in countless cases of persons being sentenced to serve terms in prison disproportionate to the crime for which they've committed. Taking steps to restore this judicial discretion will restore some sense of fairness to our criminal sentencing system. And just finally, to sum up, one other person who was influential in my thinking was former Governor Gary Johnson, who I had the pleasure of seeing speak back in 2000 at the Shadow Convention in Philadelphia. Governor Johnson at the time made a remark, which I have used over and over again, I just want to leave you with, and that is that politicians and the policymakers out there, many of them are aware of the failure of the war on drugs, they're aware of the problems, but they're uncomfortable to come out because they fear that they're going to pay a political price. It's an old adage to say that nobody yet has lost a race for being tough on crime. So Gary Johnson sort of put a challenge out to that audience that it's our job to make the world comfortable for politicians to come out of the closet. Now, I don't know how charitable he was being to politicians in that regard, but I feel that's our responsibility every day here to educate ourselves, to take this information and share it with other people out there. From when I first became interested in drug policy, which was in the early 1990s after seeing Bill Buckley speak, to the point currently now, the climate has changed dramatically. There are a lot of positives there, and we need to learn from those lessons. And I believe they've come strictly out of public education and convenings like this. So I urge all of you to take this information forward, take it home, write letters to the editor, write op-eds, talk to your family members. It's only then that we can make an atmosphere where politicians will be comfortable to come out and support. Thank you.